in the Galilee on another hot day, but it's going to cool some today. It's about 9 in the morning on the 8th of June, which is a Saturday. And today we're at 83 degrees and we're going to hit 99, which is going to be hot. And then tomorrow we go to 92, then 91, 93, 95. And it's going to stay in the 90s for a while. That's the nature of Israel. I call it punishment weather. When you come here in redemption, I don't have a scripture, but I don't think you're going to be experiencing this kind of harsh weather. Just like you're not going to be experiencing the economy, we're going to revert to the shekel, where the money's going to be gold and silver, hard currency, coinage, not paper or any nonsense. So I think that'll go away, and the bad weather, the harsh weather will go away. And of course, you're not going to have to pay for your house or land. So, okay, let me go to the live stream and make sure we got sound and picture, and then please wait for posting in the chat for perhaps 2 minutes or so I can get my posts up. There we go. It didn't come through yet. Before I could check the sound and the picture, it takes a couple of minutes till it appears. There it is. Okay, we have sound and picture, so please wait for posting a couple of minutes till I get my posts up. What happened? Oh. Okay, just another minute. If you guys want to send in questions or something like that, you could certainly use the chat, or for privacy, you could email me. I do check the email during the broadcast. Not every 5 minutes, so you gotta be patient, but I do check it several times. I do use PayPal, the Israel branch, which comes out of Asia, and it can be a little confusing for some of you. If you use the full, PayPal.me Moshe Hakon, you may see it pop up partially in Hebrew and confuse you. So there's another way to do it, and I put that up there. You just put in PayPal.me, and then you put my email address in and send it to the email address. Either way will work. Okay, but I think I was creating some confusion for people, so I thought I would clarify that. Okay. We're going to cover current events today and tie it to Bible prophecy. And there's a lot of stuff going on that most people won't understand what's really taking place. They, don't understand Bible prophecy. I gotta find my eyeglass cleaners. I think this is let me see whether here somewhere. And they don't understand the Bible, and they don't know what's really going on, and they get confused, bewildered, and they start believing the media. And where are my cleanings? Somebody was cleaning the office yesterday, and I think not my wife, someone else, and she moved them, I think. Give me a second, I gotta clean my glasses. I'm fogging up here. I'll be right back. I got them now. During the last few days with this heat wave, I was getting tired a lot. I didn't know what it was. So I was thinking it was the red light therapy, and I searched for side effects, and there's like really no side effects. Other than that, you can maybe give yourself a light sun burn if you stayed in front of it for an excessive amount of time. And so it wasn't that, and I asked the Lord, and He showed me I was dehydrated. I wasn't drinking enough for the the heat. So I upped my water. I feel much better. I was drinking water like I would when it was in the 80s and low 90s, and that doesn't work when it's in the 100 plus. I think we hit 103 yesterday or something like that. I don't know. It was supposed to only go to 98 today, and then they changed it. So we'll have a break coming up, but it's punishment weather. Okay, so being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so I'm going to be telling you things, and if you haven't been with me a while, these things may not compute so great because you don't know the scriptures that I'm covering. So first thing you need to understand is America is clearly the daughter of Babylon. I have many videos about that on my YouTube channel, and they're filed under the live section, not under video, and you just go through them, and you'll see by looking at the titles, where they are. making a point of drinking Boku water. It used to be an old joke when I was studying French. They said the name of water in French is l'eau. It's L''E', pronounced low. So the joke used to be the water in France is low. Ha ha ha. Okay. So let's start with the Donald. A New York State Supreme Court judge wrote a letter on official letterhead. It was not a, off the record. It was an official document. And he said that it appears that there could have been jury malfunctioning or malfeasance or problems with the jury. And I'll explain what this is based on. There was a Facebook post where somebody posts, my cousin's on the jury, and she said they're going to, convict Trump, find him guilty. And this was posted days before the jury went into deliberation. It also appears that the jurors were deliberating, in other words, discussing the merits of the case in terms of finding him guilty or not guilty amongst themselves before all the arguments by the prosecution and the defense were rendered in the court. The arguments and the evidence and the testimony of witnesses, etc. Now, this is a violation of proper, correct jury procedures. Now, appellate court judges are usually reversing cases at a rate of significantly under 1%. I had a friend who's now dead, and for many years he worked for the California State Public Defender's Office, and they would give him appellate cases of people that were in prison and going up on appeal that couldn't afford a lawyer, and they would pay him. He didn't get the big money, but he made a good living, and he told me he had one of the highest rates with the California State Public Defender's Office, and it was a fraction of 1%. And they liked him, and they kept sending him cases. So he explained to me on a couple of occasions, we were very close. He was a neighbor of mine in San Francisco for many years, and we became friends for about 40 years or so. I missed the guy, he wasn't a believer. Before he died, he talked to me and he said, do you understand why all this stuff is going on in the world? This is several months ago. I think before October 7th, for sure. And I said, the only explanation I can give you is going to be Bible-based. And he said, forget it. He wasn't interested. And then he died a few months after that. So anyway, he deteriorated mentally. Anyway, moving along. So he told me that the appellate courts will typically reverse a case, which doesn't mean that the guy is set free. It means that the trial was no good for some reason, and you have to go back and retry the case. The defendant didn't have a good trial. That's basically what they do. They don't, I don't believe, have the power to reverse. Well, they do occasionally. They can reverse like bad DNA evidence, but typically it's just a new trial. Okay, so he said they really just do this when there was something done wrong against the rules that are written down. The judge broke protocol, didn't follow the rules, or something like that. Okay, so the first problem with this case was that the jury was not sequestered. Okay? Now, when they sequester jurors, they put them in a hotel. They pay the hotel, they pay their meals, and, I guess they pay for them to have other expenses. I don't know. They don't normally put them in a suite in the Waldorf Astoria, but they'll put them in something on the level of probably a Holiday Inn or Best Western or something along those lines. So it's going to be adequate, and then they'll have court officers which have badges and guns. Probably hanging around there to keep reporters away and keep them from wandering away and going to see a movie or something like that. And the idea would be to isolate them from the internet and the news and stuff like that, although I don't know how rigidly they enforce it. And I guess that would vary on the nature of the case and what's going on. But on a heavy-duty public case like this, they normally would be sequestered, and they were not. Okay? So at the end of the day, when the judge said, okay, we're adjourned till 9 in the morning, or whatever the heck it would be, 8, 9, 10, they went home. They went to the movies, they watched TV, they went out to eat, they went to a bar, they went to the ball game, the night game, whatever they wanted to do. And on the weekends, they were free too. So somehow this came out to the Supreme Court that it looks like there was errors made with the jury. Now this is one of the big things that they'll reverse the case for. The judge doing something completely improper and breaking the rules of evidence or testimony or things like that. That's normally all they reverse for. It could be withholding evidence, evidence tampering, things of this nature. Okay? If the judge doesn't want to hear a witness and the defense wants to present them, this could be grounds for sending it back for a new trial. It could be. It depends how strong the argument is for what the judge did was wrong. So moving along, this was a major problem, and the judge should have known better, so they would probably likely reverse him because they don't want this to keep continuing. Now, Trump was not in a good position here. Let me explain why. In New York City, the jury awards for things like auto accidents, malpractice with a doctor, maybe even a lawyer, I don't know, and things like that, the jurors tend to award very heavily to the plaintiff. So that causes insurance rates to go high. Now, they even go as further as saying this is information that goes back 20, 30, 40 years. In the Bronx, which had a lot of ghettos, I grew up in the Bronx, the juror awards were very high. See, rich people tend to try to not go to jury trials. If they can get out of it, they get out of it, because they don't want to shut their business down. And the Trump thing was extraordinary. Usually they'll ask potential jurors if they can, participate, because it might be, 60 days or 90 days or something like that. They do pay them, but next to nothing. So, let's say a woman says, well, I just gave birth to 2 twins. I don't have any money for a nanny. I can't do that. Well, they take them away from that case and put them on some other kind of case that, might take a trial of, 4 or 5 hours or something like that, I got called in California a few times, a couple of times they called me, and all I used to do was write them a letter that I was a deputy sheriff, and I told them where and all that. I think I even gave them my badge number, and that would be the end of the criminal case. They'd leave me alone. They bounced me off the list, and generally I wouldn't get called again. Once they called me again, and it was a case to commit somebody, an older woman. The family wanted to commit her and take the control. I think they wanted a custodianship. They didn't want her in control of her money. They said she was senile and things like that. I wasn't on the main jury. I was an alternate. So I had to sit and listen to the case. But when they came and briefed us, they told us this is going to take 3 or 4 hours. So I never had a vote, you know. But when I listened to it, it looked like it was a little questionable, you know. Maybe the woman figured if she probably had a reasonable amount of money, probably not $5,000. I don't think she was a multimillionaire. She might have had a quarter or $500,000 or something. And they were afraid she was going to spend the money on herself and leave no estate. And that could have been the case. Or they were afraid she was going to squander the money and then they would be forced to support her, and they didn't want that. I don't, you know, anyways, it's so many years ago, but that was the only time I ever really got to jury trial. I just used to tell them I was deputy sheriff, and then boom, you're out. You know, they don't want you on a jury in a criminal case when you're ex-law enforcement. You know, I think one time I told them, I need to tell you now that I don't believe another police officer would lie. I wasn't a believer then. I think I wrote that too. And that's it. You get out. You know, end the story. You know. You're done, you know. And they usually don't put you back in the rotation, but one time they did. So anyway, that's an advantage of being in ex-law enforcement. One of the tiny perks, you know. But the Satan bots love to go on jury trials because, you know, if one of the parties is another Satan bot, they'll rule in their favor, you know. They make everything corrupt. So anyway, Trump. So Trump had a jury, you know, being a billionaire, that was probably going to convict him and hand him his head. You know, maybe. Okay, I don't know why Trump's lawyers picked I know why. They picked a jury trial because the judge was clearly against Trump. Okay, so let's talk about what happens next. If the judge sent an official letter on, you know, New York State Supreme Court letterhead signed by him, not a clerk, it's a legal action. It goes in the case file. He's basically saying that they're going to look into the matter, but he was putting them on notice, both sides, the prosecution and Trump's lawyers. That usually would mean, or probably inescapably would mean, that the evidence looks pretty strong, and the judge is giving him a notice that he might vacate the judgment. In other words, remove it like it never happened. That's what vacate means. It's just like it never occurred. In other words, Trump is no longer a felon. And they sends it back to the court to retry the case in a more correct fashion. Let's talk about this. Chances are it's going to happen. If the judge didn't think it was going to happen, he probably never would have wrote an official letter. Maybe there would have been a phone call. But that's, you know, wrong. That's, well, he could have a conference with both of them at the same time, I suppose, but there's a thing called ex parte. They're not supposed to meet with one side of the case without the other side there. Now, I know I was in small California jurisdictions, and I remember judges hanging around in the police station, criminal judge specifically, hanging around in the police station. I had a job that was, at that point, I was a civilian but working in a law enforcement type capacity involving funding law enforcement agencies, which would include prisons, district attorneys, cops, highway patrols, something. So I had some status, you know, but I was not running around with a badge and a gun. So I was at the police station, you know, I knew these guys, they wanted me to help them get money from the state and the Fed, and I was hanging around there, and this judge is hanging around in a police station talking to the cop. Well, that's, you know, that could reverse a trial if you could document it and the judge doesn't deny it. That is not good, you know, but you'd have to know what case the judge was talking to him about. You know, the judge could say, you know, well, you know, Lieutenant Brown is in Rotary Club and I'm in Rotary. I went to talk to him about playing golf or something, you know. But okay, so the appellate courts watch the judges in criminal cases carefully to make sure they stick to the rules and the law, because they don't want uprisings from the public defenders and the poor people that get railroaded by the courts, and, you know, things like this. So they watch that, and they don't usually reverse cases unless something like that happens, okay? So the chances, I would say, are pretty strong that they're going to vacate. They're going to say the trial was screwed up. They were, you know, discussing the merits of him being guilty and not guilty, in other words, deliberating before all the evidence was in. And they were talking about the case with the things they're not supposed to do. And the court, trying the case, should have known better and not let this happen. So it's a slap on the wrist, a pretty good one. They're not breaking his hand into pieces, but they're giving him a heavy shot that you screwed up. And this hurts the judge's record. And if the judge wants to get moved to a higher court, like an appellate court or something like that, these kind of things hurt him. Now, some judges don't care. Okay, they have no aspirations to be elevated into a higher court. They're happy with the court they're in, and they don't care about, you know, reversals. They just go and interpret the cases in the law as they see fit. And if attorneys decide to bring them up on appeal and reverse them, well, they get reversed. They don't care. They, you know, in most jurisdictions, they're in for like 5 years, 4 years, 7 years or something. And they do a few cycles. They keep getting elected and they do a few cycles and they have a pension. And, you know, you talk to a really good criminal lawyer in his own practice or with a substantial firm, and the guy's making, you know, over $1 million a year, and some of them 2 or 3 million or 4 million. And then you go and you tell this guy, well, why don't you run for judge? And he's sitting there, what do I need that for? I'm at the top of my game. Being a judge isn't going to help me. And I'm going to make $150,000 a year. I need that like a hole in the head, you know. Then I can't take vacations when I want. I can't take 4-day weekends. You know, he's not going to want that. So they get people that typically start hanging around politically, and they are not real successful in their practices. Okay? Now, you're not going to get out of law school and get appointed as a judge to get, you know, a good resume and then get a job with a big firm. That doesn't happen. For instance, if you just want to join, let's say, a district attorney's office, the prosecutor's side of the fence, usually they want to see several years of relevant experience. They're not looking for auto accidents or divorces. They're looking for criminal experience. So how the heck are you going to get criminal experience if you're a new lawyer and the prosecutors aren't going to hire you? Well, you know, it's rather difficult. You know, my friend, after he got into the California Public Defender's Office, taking cases from them, would be able to qualify, but he didn't want to be a prosecutor because he had a job where he worked in his house. So he did, you know, he used to like to stay up nights and work. So he'd get up in the morning, do his thing, go to, San Francisco has great food, go get himself some lunch, come back, do what he wants to do, go to the gym, go horseback riding, whatever his hobby was at the time. And then he'd have dinner, and then after dinner, he'd sit down and work on his cases and stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And that was his lifestyle, and he didn't want to trade that in to become a prosecutor where you got to be in at 8 o'clock and you got overtime. And, so he was, wanted his own lifestyle. So anyway, the losers usually become judges. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? They're the ones that usually become judges. Now, after they're a judge for, let's say 2 terms, 8, 10, 12 years, they know a lot because they've seen all the good criminal lawyers argue their cases and they know how it's done. They have an enormous wealth of information on criminal cases, and they know the system, they know the appellate courts and everything else. So a big law firm would like to hire them and give them a lot of money. So that's a way they can go, but a lot of them just don't have the drive. They don't want it. One of the things that they're good about is they know what to do to get a case to go get kicked out on appeal. So big law firms, all they care about is money, but they have to have a good track record or people aren't going to come throw money at them, okay? They got a criminal case where someone's, let's say, dating a girl, and she claims rape and he claims consent, and they both don't have a criminal record, and you want to get a really good criminal lawyer, you're going to probably be in for at least $100,000, maybe $250 or more even. Okay, you might be in for $1 million. So a wealthy person will do that. What usually happens in a case like this, where there's a really strong criminal law firm representing the guy, is the prosecution will play the case out for a while and see how his case is going. And if it looks like he doesn't have a good case and he's going to lose, he'll go to the defendant's legal counsel and say, well, I'll give your guy an offer. And, he pleads guilty to this, and he gets, it could be anything. He gets probation, or he goes to jail for a few months, then he gets parole or probation. And if he goes to trial, I'm not going to do a deal, and if he loses, he's going to be in for 20 years, and the guy's 22 years old. So the temptation is very strong for him to just get rid of it, go through life as a felon, and just get, probation. He doesn't have to go inside. Or sometimes they tell him, you got to go away for 2 years, and then you get a few years of probation. So 2 years, if you're a young person, you start your life over again as a felon, but you start your life over again. So that's how they play. So the whole game is dirty, whether or not he did it or he didn't do it, whether or not the victim is vindictive against him because they broke up, he cheated on her, or she wanted to get a cash settlement out of him, or who knows what, he might have done it. He might have done it and he's lying, So they usually don't spend a lot of time and energy bearing down on the truth. The prosecution just wants to see if they can get a conviction. So, and these cases are pretty common. So if she goes in and says, I was raped, and they say, well, no, 3 months ago, well, they should scratch their head right there and say, what the heck, we want to hear last night, or we want to hear 2 days ago. We don't want to hear 3 months ago. Something's wrong right away, you know. But she still has a right as a victim, so they might look into the case, although I don't think so. I had a friend that was a prosecutor in the LA County District, what they call him, the district attorney, and he told me when they came into work on Monday, he said they'd have a stack of sexual crimes this high from the weekend. So they were not in the habit of taking iffy cases. They wanted real hard, you know, where the victim went to the emergency room, she was beaten, stabbed, different things like that, busted up, she had signs of a violent rape, they did a rape kit, and yes, she was raped. That's the kind of stuff they would normally move on. These other things, they just sit there and, you know, look, he's going to say he didn't do it. We'll interview him. But if he says he didn't do it, how are we going to prove he did it? It's a waste of our energy and money and time. We got to go after people we can convict. Once I was involved in a business in San Francisco, and some guy who was a lawyer came in, wrote a check for about $300-something. This was many years ago. And we went to cash the check, and the check came back, not insufficient funds. The account was closed. So he had old checks, and he was just kiting checks. The account wasn't even open. So I called the detectives in fraud, I think. Which ones did I call? But anyway, the guy came down to see me, and you know, I told him where I used to work, which was in the area as a deputy. You know, we were getting along pretty good. And he said to me, "Look," he says, "I'm here to put bad guys in jail for 5-10 years. I'm not going to be able to do that with this guy." I said, "It was a closed account. He can't say it was insufficient funds. He made a mistake. This thing was a closed account." He says, "I'm sorry, nothing's going to happen. I can't get the guy. The judge wouldn't do anything." That's what he was telling me. And this guy was a lawyer. I said, "But he's a lawyer. He knows this. I'm not going to get anywhere with it." He says, "I got to put people in jail. I can't run around, you know, spending a lot of investigative time and charging people. You know, the prosecutor won't charge him. You know, so the guy got away with it. You know, that's California. That's a lot of time. That's many years, like 40 years ago or something, you know. So, I mean, it just irritated me. The guy was a lawyer, insufficient funds. Yeah, okay, you call the people up. You know, okay, if someone made a mistake, that's something. But this guy, the account was closed a long time ago, months ago, if I remember correctly. And he knew what he was doing. He was just robbing. Like, that's like shoplifting, you know. So that's why I decided to do it. I just thought this guy went too far. Plus, being a lawyer, he really was a lawyer. It was a little bit. So lawyers are all screwed up, you know. The way they get lawyers usually is the lawyer has what's called a trust account. He could go to the bank with his law license and open up a special bank account called an attorney trust account. And he can put people's money in that trust account, and you can't attach the money. Okay? So an adversary of the client or the lawyer can't go to court and get a money judgment and take it out of the trust account. So, but you have to be careful about this. The lawyer can't use that to shelter money from a divorce case or somebody in civil litigation. What he can do is put money in his trust account, like he can put $3,000 or $4,000 in, and then every month he does so many hours of work for the case. He makes a detailed bill, keeps very accurate records, and then he could take that money out of the trust account to pay himself. But it's not to hide money from due process. And some people do that, and they get in a lot of trouble, and they'll get their license suspended or canceled permanently or stuff like that. Another thing they do is the lawyer needs money, and let's say they billed the account for $1,600 one month, and they'll take 4 or 5,000 out because they need money and they figure they won't get caught. And then something happens and the records get subpoenaed and boom, he winds up having his license, he's put on probation, or his license is suspended for a couple of years, or they just take it away altogether. And if you lose your license in one state, generally you lose it in other states. If you have a license in another state, I don't know if all 50 states interact like that or not. But. So the outcome is likely to be Trump is no longer a felon. Okay, the whole case is thrown out. The judgment is dismissed. It's vacated, they call it. That means it's like it never happened. It's the same as if the trial never occurred. Okay? So Trump's no longer a felony. They're not going to take his New York City gun permit away or anything like that. Now, then it goes back to the court, and the judge can't sue or, bring charges against Trump. He's an impartial party. So the judge has to see if the prosecutor wants to retry the case. Now, what Trump will do, first of all, Trump's lawyers will do nothing if the prosecution, until the prosecutor decides he's going to retry the case. If he's not going to retry the case, he has to answer. He can't just leave it in suspended animation for years. He has to answer. It's a reasonable time limit. If he decides he's not going to retry the case, then the Trump team walks away and forget about it. Like it, on to the next case. If he does want to retry the case, what the Trump lawyers are going to do is go file a case with the judge, and they're going to tell him they want him to recuse himself because he obviously is biased against Trump, as evidenced by his erroneous handling of the jury, and the judge will get mad, but Trump's lawyers won't care about that. And also, they don't think Trump will have a chance of a fair jury in New York City, and they want to move it to another place in New York, which would probably be at least 200 miles away. So they would want to take it away from liberal New York City and move it to redneck New York State, someplace where people actually do have guns. The judge will more than likely oppose it, or he may not. He may. I don't see this judge recusing himself. I doubt it. He'll just deny it, and then Trump's lawyers will immediately go to the appellate court and ask for a change of venue for two reasons. They'll say, one, the judge won't recuse himself, he's biased. Two, look what happened with the jury, we don't think we're going to get a fair trial here, we got to go to another place in the state, within the jurisdiction of the state. So, would Trump prevail that way? Probably. He has better than, I don't know, he probably has a 70-80% chance. He could prevail. Now the same, and they'll also argue the prosecutor is biased, and Trump's lawyers may file bar complaints against the judge. The judge isn't in the regular bar association. They have a bar association for judges that are very biased in favor of the judges, but there's a time and place when they might do something to a judge, but it would have to be severe behavior, violating behavior that's well documented. But anybody could file, even though you're not in the Trump case, you could file a complaint to the judge's bar association against the judge. Even though you're not an interested party, what are they going to do? They can't. They probably wouldn't pay much attention to the case unless you had a lot of evidence, but hard evidence, So the lawyers will file complaints against the judge. and the prosecutor with the Bar Association. He's not in a special prosecutor's Bar Association, he's in the regular Bar Association. And they'll say he, was messing with the jury and conspiracy with the judge. And then the Trump's lawyers will say, well, we filed against the prosecutor and against the judge with good cause because the Supreme Court reversed the decision and vacated the judgment. And now the law's on their side that there was malfeasance on the part of the prosecutor and the judge, plus collusion and other things they think of. So Trump could have the case moved to another jurisdiction. If that happens, and it's a neutral jurisdiction, the guy's going to look at the case and he's going to say, normally they wouldn't prosecute a case like this. But now they're prosecuting a former president, and they want to charge him with 34 felonies for something that normally wouldn't come to trial. If it did come to trial, the prosecutor would probably tell the person they could appeal down to a misdemeanor, have probation, and pay a fine and walk away from the whole thing. So that judge is going to sit there and look at this and say, this is a railroad job and it's going to tie my court up for months. And what do I need this for? I'm going to be in the public spotlight. And then the prosecutor, the same prosecutor, I think, can go to the other court, okay? Unless they get him in trouble with the Bar Association, he could go to the other court and prosecute the case. So that's going to take a lot of resources. He's going to have a team of probably 5 people, maybe 7 or 8. They're going to have to go, if it's, more than 50, 60 miles. To get into another venue, they're going to probably have to go at least 100 miles out of New York City. So the commute isn't going to work. So they'll have to go up there Sunday night, get a hotel, come back Friday evening. So they're not going to like that. And the budget is going to take a bad hit because they're going to have a whole team of people up there. They're going to have to come with their computers, their records, clothing. They may just, if Trump gets a new venue, they may just decline to prosecute the case. They may just drop it. If they do decide to prosecute the case in another venue, the chances are very high they'll lose. The Trump lawyers know his entire case, and they excluded a lot of evidence and witnesses that, I know witnesses anyway, that Trump wanted to bring in. They wouldn't let him testify. So another court probably would let them testify, which would weaken their case. And the jurors may not be that biased against Trump at all. And they would sequester the jury and all of that. So it's likely Trump got out of this one. Unexpectedly, I wouldn't have expected this. But it looks like he's out of it. And it would also appear to me that it's probably never going to come to trial again. The only way it would come to trial again, I think, is if the judge tells the prosecutor, set a new trial date if you want. The prosecutor sets it, and Trump would then be afraid to take trial by judge, so he goes back to a jury, and the same and similar things would happen all over again. And Trump would probably get convicted. So their big fight is going to be on a change of venue. And their case for that, if the case gets thrown out of court for the errors with the jury, he's probably going to win that appeal. He'll have to appeal the local court because the judge will deny to recuse himself, and he'll the prosecutor, is going to hang in there, So they'll appeal that to the New York Supreme Court, which will probably give them what they want, and then the prosecutor may be dumb enough to try to get Trump to plead guilty to one count of a felony or something like that, and then Trump will laugh at him. I'll be back in a minute. So the people in America are going to have their false hope in this Trump character restored to them. Probably already started, Fox News and all the other stations are carrying the story. So they're going to have their hopes raised up again. And Biden is going to get bewildered by this. See, everything Biden's doing blows up in his face. Hunter Biden's trial is about ready to finish in part. I think the prosecutor's arguments are over today, and they might call Hunter Biden to the stand. They may not, I don't know. And then the defense goes to work, and then after that, I don't know if it's a judge trial or a jury trial. Hunter Biden could get convicted, but that's no big thing really, because he'll be out on bail, and he'll, he has Secret Service protection. Where's he going to run to, So he'll be out on bail and, appeal, and, prophetically, I don't think there's enough time for anything to really happen. And if he gets convicted, the people that vote for Joe Biden aren't going to care. So that's significant, and Biden is, you see, Biden and Trump both believe nothing's going to change. They're going to be an election, and these Satan bots are going to stay in power because Satan's more powerful than God, or whatever stupid thing they believe. Okay, so Trump, if he gets in, which is very real to Biden, will go after Biden and his whole administration, not just Biden. And what Trump will do is very quickly revamp the FBI, the Justice Department, Homeland Security, put different people in charge of the Pentagon, things like this. And then when he gets his people in place, they will start building cases against Biden and his gang. And if the FBI and Justice Department have destroyed files and records and stuff like that, they'll go after them. And the FBI and the Justice Department know that. So they're going to be a little bit leery of running around throwing things into the shredder and burning them, So you're going to see more radical behavior on the part of Biden if this works. Now, Trump's case for immunity in the Supreme Court, as far as I know, is the federal Supreme Court, I don't think has been resolved yet one way or the other. If they come back in favor of him, this is what I think. I haven't heard he ever lost this case, and I haven't heard he ever won it, so I think it's still going on. Then his federal criminal cases go out the window because of immunity. And then basically, I think what they're left with is not much, some civil cases, and I don't think Trump cares about that one way or the other. He'll just push those cases off until after the election, and if he loses, he'll go up on appeal and try to settle it with them. You know, it's not going to be anything he's going to waste a lot of time with. Civil, he'll just turn over to the lawyers to do with as they wish and move on. So now we got to talk about what's going on in Europe. We're having very unusual situations there. Ukraine is inflicting pretty serious damage on Russia. They're shooting missiles into Russian homeland territory, and they're knocked out 3 early warning radar systems. They knocked a large Russian oil refinery out with a lot of fire, and things of this nature. And Putin knows the F-16s are coming. To the best of my knowledge, right now, Ukraine has 3 trained pilots from America and 3 functional F-16s, but that's only 3. And he's expected to get 82 more, plus a bunch of French Mirage jets now Macron is throwing into the pot for Zelensky in Ukraine. Now, Putin knows that his S-300s and his S-400s aren't going to work because the Ukrainians already took out 2 of his S-400s. His S-300s are much more immature than that, and I don't know if Putin uses them anymore. He might, but they're not effective. I mean, they're going to work if you're going to fight the army from some small little country somewhere like Ghana or something like that, but they're not going to work against the major powers' aircraft. Russia does have what's called the S-500, but they probably have almost none of them, very few, and from the information I was exposed to, it's still not going to work effectively. It's not going to take stealth jets down. It'll take non-stealth jets down, that's for sure. It's a threat to a non-stealth jet, but not a regular jet. An F-16, advanced F-16, can be coated with the F-35 fuselage coating and make it somewhat stealthy also. And those are, I believe, what Biden has decided to sell to Turkey, or almost finalized. And you have to understand that Turkey is running around telling all the Arab states to get together with a big army and let's go wipe Israel out, and Biden is selling them advanced F-16s. So if you're running around trying to tell yourself what a nice country America is and how they're friends of Israel, you really need to rethink that. Biden has never released the 3,500 bombs that he's holding back from us. Biden told Israel not to invade Lebanon, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, because the Iranians said that they will enter into the attack on the side of the Hezbollah with boots on the ground if that happens. Now, Iran makes a lot of threats, and they rarely go through. Every now and then they do, but it's not normal. Iran is just a big mouth. Okay? They don't put their money where their mouth is very often. Whoops. It's not normal for them to put their money where their mouth is. Okay? And they, over overstate their capability militaristically. So Biden tells Israel, cool it with Lebanon, because Iran's going to get into the fight. Now, do you think America would come to the defense of Israel if Iran went to Lebanon and started fighting against Israel? I don't. And that would make him look bad in the election, which is very real to him, because it looks like he turns his back on America's, great ally, Israel, and the only democracy in the Middle East. And Trump would make sure that the whole American country heard about this, and how disastrous it is, and how nobody will trust America anymore, and how Biden's the worst president ever. And Biden knows this will happen, and his administration is probably calling the shots. Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Austin, and others. And they all don't know what they're doing. So he's telling Israel, look, they're sending 50 to 70 rockets a day. Suck it up. I got an election to win. Don't go in there. And it looks like Israel may listen. So far, they're listening. Now, today's Saturday, Shabbat in Israel, and Benny Gantz, sometime today, is supposed to make a speech publicly in Israel. Benny Gantz is the contender to be prime minister if there's a vote of no confidence against Netanyahu and he loses. And then they have a new election. Benny Gantz has the high probability of winning. But some of the latest polls are still showing Netanyahu could beat Benny Gantz. Now, people are saying Benny Gantz is siding with Biden. I'm not that sure of that. Benny Gantz doesn't want to see the Biden policies go into effect, because he'll never become prime minister if he follows that. And if he waits till he is prime minister and then follows it, he'll get a vote of no confidence and get thrown out of office. So it's political suicide, and I don't think Benny Gantz wants any part of that. Okay? He might be easier to talk to than Netanyahu and easier to manipulate for the Biden staff, but he's not going to go and sell Israel out the way Biden would like him to. Biden tried to recruit him, but I'm not convinced Biden did recruit him, okay? So Benny Gantz is going to make an announcement today, and what we're told is he's going to say he's leaving the war coalition with Netanyahu. So he's pulling him and his political party out of this coalition. And that normally means there's going to be a vote of no confidence coming up very quickly. Next week, I'm sure. And we don't know. When the polls were predicting Netanyahu could hold up, they were, saying he needs 61 out of 120 votes. And I think he'd get it like a margin of 2 or 3, so he'd get like 63, 64. Then that can change by the day. So Gantz might get in, I don't know. And again, it's going to depend on who Gantz unifies himself with. Gantz wants the ultra-Orthodox to be drafted. So far, the ultra-Orthodox have not been drafted. The law is in place, they're supposed to, and it hasn't happened. Netanyahu keeps dragging it out, and the Attorney General keeps asking Netanyahu, what's up with this? And she doesn't get any good answers. Okay? They also wanted to conduct a military investigation on why October 7th happened, and then pushed that away and said this is not the time to do that. Well, it is, because if he's complicit, he could do it again. But the Israeli public doesn't think that way about their leaders. They sort of are in denial about their leaders. They don't think they're as wicked as they are. So it's too early to pick up on what Benny Gantz is going to say. It'll probably be in the afternoon or the early evening, or he may do it after Shabbat in the nighttime. But I'll keep you guys posted on that. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to get the Middle East news as it breaks. You'll get it a lot quicker from me than you will from the media, probably 12 hours. If this is of interest to you, subscribe. And if you don't mind, hit the like button, which helps with my algorithm with YouTube. Let me take a look in the chat and see if I have questions. Okay, I think we're okay there. And throw a little garbage out. So, Biden is suppressing Israel, causing us to take 50 to 70 rockets every day from Hezbollah without a serious, invasion to stop it. And he has caused a reduction of troop strength in Rafah. Although I read a report from a soldier that's down there and says that they're annihilating them, but I'm not so sure. I think he was just trying to speak positive. Israelis are that way. They try to just talk positive. No, it's not the same. The pier is back. They actually did repair the pier and brought the pier back. That's, in my book, not a real good thing, because it's going to be used to bring soldiers into Gaza, I believe. And that's not going to be a positive solution for anything. Biden is going to have everything blow up in his face. He's in a snare. The United States is in a snare from Jehovah, and the scripture is Jeremiah 50, verse 24, and I will read it to you. I have laid a snare for thee, this is Jehovah talking, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware that thou art found, and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. And I'm telling you how he's striving against the Lord with Gaza, Lebanon, Iran. And I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee. It's not going to take a long time, but I need another cup. So I'll have a coffee break for a couple minutes, not long. Now, let's see how the snare is developing in Russia for Biden. There are already troops in Ukraine from NATO countries. Russia captured some of them already, although they're supposedly there as advisors. Macron wanted to send troops, French troops, into Ukraine to apparently fight Russia. And Biden stopped them. See, this is Biden full of fear and his administration with an inability to act decisively. And this might work with Russia alone or China alone or something like that, but it's not working. The Biden gang is thinking that, well, if we could just scare people with a show of force and not really deliver or deliver some, minor level of force, we could stay as the dominant power, the great voice, the hammer of the whole earth without actually getting into a big war. And it's failing, as you're going to see. So, Macron's not happy, but he's going along with it for now. And Ukraine's getting all kinds of weapons, and they're dumping all kinds of missiles into Russian territory. And Putin is getting painted into a corner. Okay? And he's scared. If he doesn't do anything, he risks a military overthrow of his government, or in another kind of overthrow. Russia has a sordid history of this going back a long time. And Russia could get severely damaged, like oil refineries blown up, ports blown up, military bases destroyed, radars taken out, all kinds of problems. Now the NATO states are running a big exercise in the Baltic Sea with 50 warships, thousands of soldiers and planes involved, and this is scaring Putin. Putin has to say, how do I know this is just an exercise? What if they stay there? What if they start a fight with my ships or something and start a war? So the other day, I don't know, a week ago maybe, Putin was saying, well, I'm going to give weapons to, there's NATO states giving Ukraine weapons, and I'm going to give weapons to the enemies of those NATO states, even if they're not official governments, just, like a terrorist government. What are you doing down there, guys? Am I detecting suspicious behavior? Oh, you're hiding from the air conditioning. Okay, so he changed his threat yesterday to saying that he might attack NATO countries that are giving weapons to Ukraine. The thought behind it is because these weapons are being used with the consent of these NATO countries to attack inside Mother Russia. And I can't have that. I'm fighting against Ukraine. If you want to help Ukraine, that's one thing. If you want to help Ukraine attack Mother Russia, I got to deal with it. And Putin is not that stupid, and he knows that the time has come that he has to do something. So he's scared himself, and I'll tell you why. And he's threatening NATO, which isn't going to work. because Putin has not made good on his threats. Currently, there's a Russian submarine with missile launch capability near the east coast of America someplace. We don't know how close or the details, but it's there. And he's moving, probably by next week, at least they'll start chugging towards America. A flotilla of Russian vessels, the size of which we don't know. It could be 3, it could be 8, we don't know. And they're going to stay there all summer, and they intend to make port calls in Venezuela and Cuba. Cuba's 90 miles from America, from Florida, the Keys. Not exactly a vital area, but it has tremendous psychological impact if he attacks any place in Florida. There's not much in the Florida Keys. It's, resorts. People go there for season. Wealthier people go from the snow zones down there. And the big sport down there is fishing, and it's hit with hurricanes frequently, so the people that live there will say, well, we don't bring our pictures and our our memories and our expensive furniture and things down there, They bring, sneakers, blue jeans, casual shirts, cheap furniture, or old furniture, and because they could get hit with a hurricane and wipe it out. They generally will have hurricane and flood insurance, and so they might not have content insurance. I think that if the insurance companies turn you down in Florida for hurricane insurance, you can get it through the government. But getting contents insurance probably isn't going to work, so they don't bring expensive contents. The cars, that's insured. The boats, that's insured. So a lot of people go there and they buy a boat, and they get a house on the water, small house, which has a dock, and they barbecue and stuff like that. There's not much to do. You got a big bridge that goes many miles, and it goes through different Florida Keys communities, and the big one is Key West all the way at the end. And that's a big LGBT resort now, and it's actually got some land mass, so they'll have malls and movie theaters and things to do there. And it probably is a little bit more resilient to the storms because it's got land, but I don't think it's more than 1 or 2 miles across, or 3 miles or something like that. So it'll easily flood. And that's what, so yeah, if he hits that, is it going to be devastating to America? No. Psychologically, yeah, but it's not going to mean a lot now. When you start talking about him getting into areas where you can cause more trouble, like Miami Beach, that's a much bigger rocket shot, but let's say he could hit that. That would be painful. But a lot of it is, not a lot of industry, it's a lot of tourism and a lot of retail, and, they're not really military bases there or any vital, there's airports. I mean, it would be painful. The grand prize for attacking Florida would be hit the Kissimmee area where Disney and Universal Studios are, with numerous other attractions. That would be the grand prize, and that would be a bit of a longer missile shoot, but Putin might be able to make it, and he could also move his ships off the coast of Florida up north and hit them. And that would be a real blow to America. That would be the equivalent of hitting New York City, or Los Angeles, or San Francisco, or Dallas, or Houston, or things of that nature. It would be very major. Would the country survive without Disney and Universal? Yeah, sure. But it would cause a lot of destruction, economic damage, bad morale. It would scare people. People would probably start leaving America. So, I believe Putin could hit those places, Orlando. I don't think he could hit D.C. from Cuba or down there. He'd have to go. America's water rights go out 25 miles, so he could go 30 miles out and easily launch at Washington, D.C., New York City, and all these other places, New York City, of course, is a grand old target because you've got the New York Stock Exchange, the New York Federal Reserve Bank, you've got the New York Futures Exchange, you have a lot of advertising, a lot of transportation, shipping headquarters, corporate headquarters. You have much there, okay? He could hit D.C. and Virginia, hit the CIA, NSA, Pentagon. It's all kinds of things, See, America never planned on being hit on their homeland, but now it seems imminent, If they planned on it, their better move would have been to locate the center of the country, the capital and everything, 1,000 or so miles in the interior of America. That's a much harder missile shot, If Putin's 30 miles off the coast and he shoots a cruise missile from 40 feet underwater in a submarine, it goes 550 miles an hour. So that means in 15 minutes it goes about 150 miles, just to make it easy numbers. So it would take 3 minutes to hit the target from 30 miles. Could America accomplish a takedown? I don't know. It depends on if they have any Patriot anti-missile systems in the area, and if they could launch on time, and how good Putin's missile is, and how smart it is, and everything else. I don't know. You'd have to say, yeah, it could hit, So Biden is using Ukraine against Russia the way Iran is using Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis against Israel. It's the same thing. But NATO is also using Ukraine as well. Okay? So Putin sits there and does nothing. More radar systems will get taken out, more refineries, more weapons and military equipment storage inside Russia near Ukraine will be taken out. More anti-missile systems will be taken out, and it just keeps getting worse and worse for Putin. So Putin needs to do something. Now along comes the Houthis in Yemen. What they do yesterday or the day before. They detained, or we could say arrested, 30 workers of the UN. 30. They didn't stamp their passport, cannot enter Ukraine again or anything like that, They, Yemen took a pretty hard line against these workers in Yemen. or I would just say Yemen, you can't come to Yemen again or something. They didn't do that. UN workers don't always get a diplomatic passport. You'd have to be a high-ranking UN official to have full diplomatic immunity. But the UN generally has some degree of immunity because they're working for a recognized international organization and they carry a UN passport. And it would be rather irregular to arrest them unless they were really involved in some nefarious situation, which they could be. We don't know what the evidence is, if they have any or not. So now you ask yourself, what does the UN do? 30 of their people were detained. Well, they have to do something on one level or another because this makes them look weak and bad. Rest assured, the first knee-jerk is going to be a diplomatic solution. Why do you do this? How could we resolve it? What did they do? Let us take them out of UN. We'll never send them back to you. We'll replace them with people we can vet. You can vet them. Let's get, and what is Yemen going to do? To answer that question, we have to look at what role Yemen has in the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. The first tier, the top tier, is China and Russia. The next tier down is Iran and North Korea. And the next tier down is like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the militias in Syria and Iraq, and people like this. So Yemen's role in this thing is to get America to bring a lot of troops into the Middle East in a semi-permanent way. So they're attacking ships like there's no tomorrow. Now let's go on to that Eisenhower aircraft carrier. Now, America's got egg all over their face right now. They just came out with a statement in response to the Houthis that they're going to keep the Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier in the Red Sea for an extra month. What a lie. The ship got hit, and that's why they put it in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia port for repairs. They probably had to fly 100 or 200 workmen in from the States because I doubt the Saudi workmen know what the heck they're doing in terms of making major repairs to an aircraft carrier. And the Saudis probably agreed to put them up in a hotel and they're going to get equipment over here, which the Saudis might have the equipment, the torches and things like that. So, that's why they said they're extending it by 30 days. There was a reason why they moved the warship a few hundred kilometers into Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And that was because the ship really was hit by missiles or drones and damaged. And we don't know much about what happened to that destroyer, except there's videos showing that it burst into flames. So I don't know what's up with that one either. So if America just felt our aircraft carrier's in danger, the Houthis are shooting at it, they wouldn't have taken it to dock it in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. That's not a secure location. They would have taken it up into the Mediterranean. Okay? Would have went through the Suez Canal and gone out in the Mediterranean and just hung around. Or they would have went down south past Yemen, which I doubt, but they might have, and then went 100 miles, 150 miles away from Yemen and get out of their sights. Yet it would be very easy for their planes to cover 100, 150 miles of ground very easily and very simply, so they wouldn't be that worried. So they're not just continuing the deployment of the Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier. They're repairing it. So they're lying. Now Biden's gotten to the point where he's lying to the public of America about what happened. Okay? He's afraid to give them the truth. But the truth about that is going to come out. It always does. So what happens in Yemen? Well, the UK and America went there the other day and did more airstrikes. Didn't do much. They hit an airport. They probably busted it up and they hit something else. Big deal. Not stopping the Houthis at all. They're going to keep attacking warships. The weapons they got are either from NATO countries or now we go to China. Russia cannot take NATO on by itself. Russia needs America fighting in other fronts. Russia needs America going in on the ground with the Houthis with like 75, 100,000 troops, 6 or 8 warships to back it up and everything else to go in there and rout out the Houthis. And that's what it would take. It would probably take 60 to 120 days. It might get it in 6 weeks even. It wouldn't be long for America. UK would help them, other NATO countries would help them, but predominantly it would be American troops. And that's the goal of what they're using the Houthis for, is to force America to do a ground invasion. Okay? So, China. China has not yet attacked Taiwan, nor has North Korea attacked South Korea. North Korea has provoked South Korea, caused a lot of military buildup from America and the South Koreans, and the same with Taiwan, but they have not attacked. Yet they keep going through the motions like they will attack surrounding Taiwan with warships, and at the same time flying planes into their airspace, but no attack. I think Biden has finally come to the conclusion that China's afraid to attack them. This is incorrect. But this is what he thinks, and that's why he's getting aggressive in Europe against Russia. I'll be back in a minute. We'll talk about what I think China's really cooking up for Biden. Now, Russia needs China and Iran and North Korea. He cannot deal with NATO unless other wars break out around the world, drawing the attention of NATO, especially the United States. If Putin just decides he's going to go against NATO with the United States, it would be a 90-day war and the American flag would be flying in Moscow, and he knows that. So he is a chess player, and he's watching himself very carefully. But China can't make a move on South Korea through North Korea and Taiwan and Japan and Guam and the Philippines and all the other stuff they want without Putin's cooperation. Those are the two king players. The next tier down is North Korea and Iran, and those are not throwaway assets. They need them for their military might to add to their power. They don't have great technology. They got decent missile technology. They don't have an air force or a navy worth much. But China and Russia can supply the air force and the navy. So the goal here is to take out America. What China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia figure if they take out America, they can do whatever they want. The world is theirs. And they would be right, unless God stopped them, which he will. But so the only way they're going to take out America is with a unified effort to draw America into many skirmishes and wars around the world at the same time. Then America's domestic military will be run down because they'll be stationed all over the world. Then the sleeper agents take them out. Then they invade. So China has convinced Biden that they're not going to do anything. I'm sure Biden believes that by now. And that's why he's getting more aggressive with Ukraine. And even he said to Ukraine, you could use our weapons to attack inside Russia. Okay? Now, I think China's working them. They need to get America to move troops out of America. And they're trying hard to do it. That's what the Houthis are doing. If Biden doesn't take the bait on the Houthis, what's next? Iran will start escalating problems in the Persian Gulf, the Indian Ocean, and the water connecting the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean. Interfere with shipping and things like that. Okay, like what the Houthis are doing. And we've seen what the response has been to the Houthis, next to nothing. Nothing meaningful, and that's what the response would be to Iran, according to the way Iran would think. So if Biden does nothing, the Houthis are going to continue with the ship interdiction. Iran will start. Russia will stay the same. They'll be taking missiles, they'll be sucking it up. What they're going to eventually do is put pressure on China and tell China, look, now's the time. If you're not going to do it, let's just go back to the drawing boards, build up our weapons in the next 18 months and start over. There is no 18 months for them, but they don't know that. So if they put pressure on China and China doesn't cooperate with them, their coalition is dead in the water. And they know that if they don't work together in unison, America will pick them off one by one. Because no one of them can stand up against America. China by itself can't, North Korea can't, Iran can't, nor can Russia. But together, they can. But they're scared. They don't want a full-out knockdown fight. They want to draw America into these proxy countries they don't care about, like Yemen, Lebanon, stuff like that, Iraq, Syria. So what Biden is forcing Israel to do, not take real big military action, he's doing. And Russia and China and North Korea and Iran are seeing that as fear in Biden due to the election and reluctance to do anything decisive, and they're going to keep moving forward with their aggression to force Biden to do something. If they don't get anywhere with the Persian Gulf, they could always go to Algeria and Morocco and shut the Mediterranean off by the Straits of Gibraltar. Easy. I guarantee you that'll get a military response. European Union isn't going to even care what America says about that. They know 2 or 3 months of that, they're crippled bad. So they'll raise up. Whatever Biden says, they're not going to pay attention to. They're going to rise up. There's videos of military-aged males coming into America. Reporters are interviewing them. They're coming from places like Egypt and Turkey, and they're just strolling in. There's no border patrol effort to stop them. So the newscasters are saying that Biden's story about the shutting the border was just a joke. He has no intention of doing it. So he's lying. That's the fear. On top of all these other problems, that Nut has his son facing a prison term. How do you put the president's son in prison? It's the same thing like Trump. You'd have to send the Secret Service in there with him. It's a monumental mess. And Biden doesn't know what to do. That's what you have to understand. He's confused. Isaiah 47 explains it. Evil and bad things keep popping up from America all over the place where they don't expect it. And they're overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. Biden doesn't know what to do. It's not just him. It's his whole team. They don't know what to do. What would a guy like Trump do? Well, he'd send warships near Yemen. And he'd probably give him an ultimatum. If they failed to meet the ultimatum, he'd probably hit them with 50 to 100 missiles and bombs every day. until they submit it. Now, they'll go in tunnels and underground bunkers, but still, Yemen's going to be destroyed. He would hit their boats, he would hit any planes they have, helicopters they have, radar they have, which America already did. And eventually he'd have to do a ground invasion. With Russia, Trump would have negotiated a peace with Russia and Ukraine. He would get Ukraine to give up a piece to Putin and get Putin to go home a hero. And that's it. Then when he gets rid of that, he'd deal with Lebanon. He'd just tell Lebanon, listen. Or he'd tell Hezbollah, I'm sending, an aircraft carrier group there with destroyers and missile cruisers, and we're going to help Israel bomb you day and night until there's nothing left between the Litani River and Israel. It's going to be a dust heap. And they'll say, we don't believe you, and then he'd do it. 2,500, 4,500 bombs later, that's it. He would tell Hamas, surrender all your weapons and submit to unconditional surrender, and I'll make sure there's mercy for you. Or he would suggest, banish yourself out of Israel and Gaza or something like that. Well, you're not going to see him doing that. It's never going to happen. There's no time for it. It looks to me like Biden's about ready to believe that China is not going to attack Taiwan and North Korea is not going to attack South Korea. And that's why he's bearing down harder on Russia. Russia is now talking about attacking Poland because the weapons to Ukraine come in through Poland. So Putin's trying to bluff his way out of this, and it's not working. Putin's going to have to shoot his way out of this. If China doesn't help Putin, then the coalition is gone, and then China may as well just learn to live with sanctions and being pushed around by America incessantly. They'll come together and they'll take out America. That's what the prophecy tells us. Now, Putin may start attacking NATO, and NATO may be scared, too scared to go into full war with Russia because they'll be afraid America won't do anything. They'll be thinking, well, what if China attacks Taiwan? America's going to run over there. They may not have time for us or assets. Bottom line, Putin has to make a move. He's going to make a move. China knows that, and they don't want to break up their coalition, so they're going to make a move too. Before that happens, Iran and the Houthis may try to draw American troops into the Middle East at a deeper level. They might be successful, I don't know yet. They're not going to do that much damage to Yemen. They're in tunnels, they're in underground bunkers, not that many of them are going to get killed. And America's not going to make a point of destroying the Yemen homeland, they're just going to hit Houthi targets. So this is something that likely can happen. I don't think there's a lot of fear and hesitancy about this with the Houthis. They're ready to move forward and keep provoking America, Great Britain, and so forth. Let me check the chat. Things will escalate, yes. America's approaching their destruction. Isaiah 47 and Jeremiah 50 and 51. The ceasefire deal is dead. Dead as a doornail. Blinken is here trying to get it revived again. You see, this is their idiot doctrine. This is what the people that serve Satan go for. I'll never give up. Okay? That's how Satan trains. I never give up. I never give up. So Blinken and Biden are saying they're never going to give up. They're going to keep fighting for the ceasefire. Hamas is operating at the pleasure of Iran. Okay? If Iran tells them take the ceasefire, they will. Qatar went to the, I think it's two real heads of Hamas, the bosses of bosses, are in the five-star hotels in Qatar, and Qatar allegedly told them, I don't know if this is going to be enforced. Do I think Qatar really said it? Oh yeah, but it may have been tongue-in-cheek. They said that you got to take the ceasefire or leave Qatar. We're not protecting you anymore. Well, where would they go? Well, Iran, for starters. Turkey would take them. Those would be their two best bets, Iran and Turkey. Probably Turkey. Egypt would be afraid that's a hot potato. They wouldn't grab that one. Turkey'd love it. So, they may just go to Turkey. Qatar's not going to arrest them or anything like that. Qatar's in on it. You know, I'm not even sure Qatar's going to throw him out. Maybe Biden told Qatar, you better bear down on these idiots. You see, the way this is going to go is not hard to understand. Blinken and Biden will put pressure on Hamas. Hamas isn't stupid. They know how the Middle East works, and they know Biden is a big do-nothing, just a blowhard. So they're going to hang tough. They're going to say, nothing's happening until Israel completely pulls out of Gaza and we have guarantees of a permanent ceasefire. And then we might give them back some of the hostages in exchange for prisoners in an Israeli jail for terrorism at a ratio of 30 to 1 or 100 to 1 or some insane thing to ridicule Israel. Okay? Biden and Blinken will say, well, we can't get the Israelis to commit to that. And then Hamas will say, well, really? Why don't you go to work on that? We're not moving off these terms. So then the morons, Blinken and Sullivan and Biden and Austin, will go back and say, hey, let's just put more pressure on Israel. They'll never rise up and fight us. Let's just force them to accept this bad peace deal and abide by it, and then we're done with the problem. Okay? So all roads lead to Biden putting more and more pressure on Israel, because he doesn't see Israel going around sinking ships at random, attacking America, hitting American bases in the Middle East, or anything like that. So his best move is to pressure Israel. And Biden will continue to pressure Israel, and God will come after America for that. It will just increase the attacks on America. That's all that Biden's accomplishing. He keeps punishing Israel and punishing Israel and punishing Israel, and the Lord tends to wait till the iniquity or the lawlessness of those that are his enemies is at the fullness, and that justifies the maximum punishment, and then he swats them down. So I don't know exactly what pressure Biden's going to put on Israel, but now that the peer's back, I think he's going to try a military presence in Gaza to make sure Israel is not there, and you have to agree you're not going to retain hostages. It's just a big mess, and Biden has no way out. The best thing Biden could do is simple. Takes all his troops out of the Asia-Pacific region, takes all his troops out of the Middle East, takes all his troops out of Europe, Africa, Central and South America, and he takes his Navy vessels and he blocks the whole East Coast, blocks the whole West Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, puts his planes all around strategic locations in America, fortifies his forts. Instead of having, 20, 30, or 40 MPs on a shift guarding a big base, he has 300, has the soldiers with access to weapons, has tanks deployed on the bases, have helicopters on the go with troops, military police ready to jump in the helicopters, and have like at least 8 or 10 tanks with the motors running ready to go on these bases with tank crews. Then, he could defend his bases, but he's too dumb. So if America did that, they would go back to being an isolationist country. They go back to growing all their crops and their agricultural animals. And they go back to putting tariffs. If you want to buy a Japanese or a German car, you got 100% tariff, like Israel puts on all cars. So who's going to buy a $60,000 Mercedes for $120,000? Well, there's always going to be a few characters, but it's going to go down by 90%. And you build up the American car industry, and then you get the housing going, and you stop the food imports, and you get growing your own food. But Biden's got no interest in doing anything like this. This would be the intelligent thing. Just drop out. Tell the UN you got to move out of America. We don't want it here anymore. But you're not going to see anything like that. Biden, Blinken, Austin, and those characters, Sullivan, they think they could still operate as the great voice hammer the whole earth without having to go to big wars, and they're wrong. Biden's doing the wrong thing. The other thing Biden could do that would get him out of some trouble is send, a nominal amount of soldiers to Israel, like, 30 or 50,000 with a few hundred tanks, armored personnel carriers, and put them up at the border by Lebanon. And then tell the Hezbollah, if you fire on any of our troops one time, we're going to give you 100 times back. Test us. Go ahead. I double dog dare you. Test us. And then Iran is going to say, well, we'll get into the fight. And then you turn around and tell Iran, well, we'll just bomb you. What should Israel do about Iran threatening to attack Israel, to help Hezbollah attack Israel or defend against Israel? Well, what Iran is telling us, listen, you're taking 50 to 70 missiles a day from Hezbollah. You suck it up, you dumb Jews. That's more than you deserve. It's too good for you. You should take 500 a day. Lie down and die, you dogs. That's Iran, okay? Now, Netanyahu's a punk. He's weak. He's double-minded. Talks with a crooked mouth. Double-tongued. Lies. He's worthless, and he's not right-wing. He's centrist. He's not right-wing. Neither is Gantz. What would a right-wing prime minister do about Iran? You call him up on the phone, and you don't go through a mediator, and you say, look, jackass, I want the war with Hezbollah and Hamas stopped today, and the Houthis. If it's not stopped, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do, but you're going to find out very fast. And they'll go, oh, Akbar, oh, okay. Then you send the F-35s over, and you blow up the Iranian oil refineries. You completely destroy them. You completely destroy all their peers. You knock off their navy so they can't interdict with shipping in the country. Then you go home. That would take 25 planes sent in waves of maybe 8, 3 groups of 8, nothing big deal, right? Now you knocked off their income. You don't have to get the oil fields. You can't very well take oil out of the field and sell it. You got to get it in a refinery. And they don't have but 2 or 3 refineries that are worth anything. You knock them all out. Okay? Forget about their assets in Syria and all that stuff. If they want to have the people in Syria send missiles into Israel, you go back and bomb Iran again. Bomb their airports. Bomb their civilian airports, their military airports. Bomb their piers. Bomb their electric generators. You just keep bombing them. They can't stop the F-35s. How many bombing runs will it take for them to shut up and go home? One good one. That's it. You tell them, we get any more rockets out of Hezbollah, the Houthis interdict ships, Hamas keeps fighting, we're going to go back and we're going to keep creating more and more damage in Iran. Okay? We're going to make you look like Gaza. Try us. You won't have to do it more than once. They'll realize that they're not dealing with Netanyahu and they're not dealing with Biden. They're dealing with the equivalent of General Patton. That's it. It's over. Don't you get that? But these Satan bot leaders won't do it. Satan won't let them destroy the Muslims. He's raised up a religion of billions, I think they got 1 billion people, that are heavily dedicated to killing Israel and the Jews. And he needs that for his security. so he could stop end times, so he could stop God from raising up Israel to serve him and be the head of all the nations. And then they beat their swords into plowshares, they beat their spears into plowshares, and there's, no, wait a minute, I had it right. They beat their swords into plowshares, and they beat their spears into pruning hooks. No more war. And Satan no longer runs the earth. God and Yeshua run the earth. So the leaders of this world are not moving against the Muslims because Satan will not green light it. The Muslims, as you can see, the way they treat the immigrants in these countries in Europe and stuff like that, they are superior beings in the eyes of Satan because they will accomplish his goals. They will lay their life down thinking they're going to, go to heaven with blessings to kill the Jews. Scripture is they'll kill you and think they're doing God a favor. That's in your Bible, in the Old Testament. It's in there. But Netanyahu's a whoosh, just like Biden. He went over and he flew an op over there in Iran, and he knocked out 2 bases and took out a few nuclear plants' radar, not the nuclear plant. Why? He didn't want to go really against the Muslims because his God wouldn't like it. In one day, you could end all this Iran garbage. 25 F-35s in 3 groups, go over there, hit the oil refineries, and start blowing their ships up as a secondary target. And the piers where they offload the natural gas and the oil, and also blow their pipelines up. It's not hard. Maybe you'd have to come back and have a second group. While they're coming back, another group goes, another 25 or 20, and you clean up the other targets. In one day, it's over. It's finished. Iran is done. They will quit. They will say, oh, let's agree to them and shut down, so we'll go back and we'll spend more time and energy on getting more and more better weapons. Do you think China and Russia are going to come in and go to war for them? Dream on. Not a chance. Nor would North Korea. They would pull their horns back too, because they'd be sitting there worried and saying, well, we don't have Iran and their satellites in the Middle East anymore. They won't do it. They won't do it. Israel makes a big show out of going to war against a bunch of ragtag, criminally insane terrorists in Gaza. They have no armor. They don't have any tanks. They don't have any armored personnel carriers. They don't have any towed artillery. They don't have any mobile artillery. They don't have any helicopters. They don't have any jets. They don't have a navy. They call the Hamas Navy fishing boats, 18 to 23 feet long, that are rowboats. There's no body on the boat. They just sit on a metal crosspiece of wood. Maybe they got a motor. Maybe some of them have a little cabin housing the motor or something. Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, if you go in and fight them on their terms, you're going to lose soldiers and they're going to fight ferociously. And the nations of the world make sure we fight them on their terms. By the human shield business. So we lose. We just go in there with artillery and bombs, and that's it. It would be over in 3 or 4 days. October 7th it started. The latest, by October 15th, it'd be over. Hezbollah, you tell them, listen, you got families in Lebanon, okay? You live there. we're going to devastate Lebanon. You're going to be living like Davy Crockett was walking around. Okay? No. Okay. Then what? You blow out all of their electricity. You start taking out their bridges. You start taking out their highways. You take out their ports, their piers, their airports. You just keep peeling the layers down. And the economy and the life in Lebanon just keeps going down and down and down and down and down. And these people live there. Okay? And they can't defend against the Israeli aircraft. Then at the same time you bomb them and shoot them with artillery and stuff like that. Then eventually you go in. What their goal is, the same with Hamas, is to do October 7th massacres in Israel again and take more hostages back. They need the hostages. Hezbollah needs 100 or 200 hostages. Don't you get that? That's why they keep trying to make incursions. They need hostages for what's going to come, which is an invasion. It's inevitable, and they know that, and they want to stock up on hostages. And they could hide them all the way up in North Lebanon or bring them into Turkey and hide them in Turkey. So Biden's stalling this. Every day, 50, 70 more rockets coming in from Lebanon, causing fires. They demolished the communities that are by the border. The people have been evacuated for months. They're vacant communities, but they pretty much demolished them. It's going to be very difficult for them to do a border incursion. Whatever method they try to deploy is going to be very, very hard. Okay? They get run down. If they get through the police, then through the military, they'd have to get through the police, which are well trained on stopping these infiltrators. It's not likely to happen. October 7th was a setup from inside. That's why it happened. All our defenses were down. So that's why Netanyahu was trying to stall that investigation, which is going to come back and bite him in the butt, because if Gantz throws him out of office on a vote of no confidence, then Gantz is going to, well, he's part of it too, I suppose. That investigation may never go. It may just be buried, and they'll all be gone before that. God knows what they did. I'm quite sure I do, to some extent. And there was a conspiracy there. And Biden was in on it, I'm sure. So you're watching the destruction of the nations as per Jeremiah 30:11. I will destroy all the nations I scattered you into. It's in Jeremiah 46, verse 28, almost verbatim. And that's what you're watching. And you're watching their build-up for the siege in Israel. Now, the UN just put us on some sort of blacklist for killing children. Did you hear this one? Yeah, they did. What's going to happen there? Well, that's the road to sanctions against Israel. Then the UN General Assembly will try to call for sanctions against Israel, which they'll get it probably passed, and it'll be unenforceable, so the UN nations will not be obliged to adhere to it, but the speakers of the General Assembly will say, you know, we can't make this enforceable, but we implore you to voluntarily do these sanctions. So that'll mean no buying or selling with Israel for some of these countries. So they're trying to knock our shipping out, the Houthis are. And now they're going to, this is the siege, Zechariah 12, I'll read it to you. It's been going on for months. The world is asleep. They don't know their Bible. The church doesn't know their own Bible. Zechariah 12, verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. I wonder if that schmuck Satan tells his disciples that he did these things. It's funny, it's such an idiot. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and Jerusalem. The siege is started in the southwest, Gaza. You think you could just go to Gaza and walk over there, or go to the beach, or go buy something, or bring goods to sell it there? You can't go in there. You think you could just go walk into Jordan? You can. You need a passport, but you can. You can still walk into Jordan. Can you walk into Syria? No. Can people go from Syria to us? No. Can they go into Jordan and then come to us? Yes. Yes, they can. Can they go to Saudi Arabia and then go into Israel? No. No. Iraq has no border with us, so it's not really fair to say, Iraq is in siege. Lebanon is on north, and they're in siege against us. You can't walk into Lebanon, they can't. Come here, you can't bring goods through Lebanon, and vice versa. Okay? So where are we not surrounded? Jordan, and that'll change. It's in the Bible. Edom and Moab and Ammon, that'll change. No, read it here. It started. It's almost complete. Verse 3, Zechariah 12. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. Now, it's Erdogan that's calling for this. He wants a 5 million man army from the Muslim states. And he's actively calling for it. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment and its rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah and smite every horse of the people with blindness. So when he opens up his eyes, it means he's turned his face towards us, as Punim. Eye in his eyes, Punim his face in Hebrew. So how do you turn your eyes towards something without putting your face towards it? You can't. And that's a really good thing when he does that. Basically, for us, it means you just slid into home plate for the believers, In a way, you did. Not that it's all over, but it's a very good thing when this happens. It's the end of Hosea 6:1 and 2. The double punishment for 2,000 years on Israel. The churches don't teach Hosea 6:1 and 2. They don't teach Zechariah 12 and 13. They just don't. They don't teach Ezekiel 8-11, which is a depiction of the great day of the Lord. They don't teach that either. They don't teach that Joel is a depiction of the great day of the Lord. They depict Zechariah 12 to be Gog and Magog, which is stupid. They just shows they have no discernment for the scriptures. They don't know who the two witnesses are. They're Apostle John and Elijah. They have it always messed up. They'll give you Elijah because it says Elijah, but then they put him with Enoch or Moses, which is not the case. But any lie is good for them. They like lies. So don't think Netanyahu's really acting in the best interest of Israel. Netanyahu, and I read this in the media all the time, he's acting in his own best interest because he's got 3 criminal cases on his head that total 16 years in jail. The trials are advanced already. He's keeping the trials at bay, not moving forward. I got to run a war. I'm the prime minister. I can't deal with this. So while it looked like the Gaza situation was going to settle a few days ago, He jacked up the Lebanon situation because he figures he needs a war to stay in office and to keep his trials held off. This is the real schmuck and Yahoo in the flesh. This is what you're dealing with. Now, Gantz breaking for him could mean an end of Netanyahu as prime minister, in which case the ultra-Orthodox will be getting drafted in days. Under Gantz, boom. Gantz is a former general and a minister of defense for a brief while in another administration. Gantz will see to it that they get drafted. The head of the ultra-Orthodox, and they got 1.2 million people roughly in Israel, and they said, if you're going to draft our young men, we're all going to leave Israel, all 1.2 million. And I'll bet they go to Egypt, and they'll get killed there. Let's see. If they leave, I'll bet you they go to Egypt. Where the heck else are they going to go? They can't afford America. They got to go someplace easy. They can go to Egypt by bus. You can go to Egypt and enter Egypt as an Israeli. I can go show up at a border crossing, give them an Israeli passport, and tell them I'm coming here for a vacation or a holiday, or I want to do business with somebody or whatever, and they'll say, go ahead. I mean, what do you, I want to be a tourist. I want to go shopping. Things are cheaper here. I want to see the Sphinx and the pyramid, which I wouldn't go see. And, yeah, I wouldn't say that either, it'd be lying. But, you know, I wouldn't never want to go there. I don't go to Muslim majority countries. I'm not crazy. A lot of Israelis do, but I think they never should do that. So, you know, you get caught, you get jammed up on something, you could wind up rotting in jail there or dying. I wouldn't go there. So what Netanyahu is trying to do doesn't make a lot of sense to me, other than it's keeping himself out of jail. But once Biden drops on him, his life is over. See, they're going to not take a 90-day pause to have a new election. They're going to do a new election the same the next day in the Knesset. So the transition will be really fast. So Biden's not going to have a chance to hang around for 90 or 100, 110 days to be the acting prime minister during the transition period, in which case, if that happens, he's not allowed to initiate any new action like new laws or new policies. All he could do is respond. Like he could be, you know, he could respond to the wars just like he does now. But the way they'll do it with this emergency vote is Gantz immediately be prime minister, and then the attorney general, who has bad blood with Netanyahu, will come after him for a fast trial. And that's the end of that. And then he will probably go to jail. So Netanyahu makes no sense. He's just wandering around. Okay. Doesn't know what to do either. And the thing is, the whole world doesn't know what to do. That's why they're not doing anything. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go, what to do. They're so confused. And the end comes. It's very close. And they're not waking up. And the church is sitting there slinging things and doctrines to the people that are not biblical, and the people don't seem to pick up on it, and they keep believing into it, and it's insane, but it's what goes on. It's nuts. Let's see what's in the chat. Oil is up, huh? Somebody's saying oil is up. Well, I think it's nice you told us oil was up, but did you have to write it 10 times? And my Santa's cousin I guess this person believes Santa's real, huh? Just kidding. I got rid of it. Yeah, they come in here and spam the chat, they think I'm they're hurting my feelings or something. I mean, sending hate from Cali. I'll check oil prices. Maybe it's pulling a leg. Let's see. Haven't checked them in a few days. It'll be easy to check. Let's check gold too. Spot oil price. Let's see. That's a phony site. They just want to get you to click on it. They tell you oil prices and they don't show it to you. They want me to buy some of their investment advice or something. Second one, same thing. Maybe this one is real. It's not really up. It's actually down a little. 70. The Brent is 79.47. And that's the higher one. And let me delete this guy. There's nothing going on. He's just playing it. Oil's not up. We're spamming the chat anyway. Okay. Let's take a look at gold and silver while we're at it. Gold's climbing up now. It's 22.92. It's getting higher yet, I think. Or maybe it was in the 23s. Wait. I don't remember where it was. Let me see. Well, it's 22.93. I don't know, maybe it's dropping from 23 something. I can't remember. Let's see what we get on silver. I know silver the other day was about 30. Okay. So we hit silver now. Silver's down a little bit, 29.13. It's down not even $1. But they keep running it down. Let's see what the currencies are doing, how the American currency is behaving. We'll run it against some of the major currencies and see what we get. It's getting a little stronger against the Israeli shekel, but nothing serious. Against the euro, euro's $1.08, more or less no big movement against the euro. The pound was $1.28, I think. It's $1.27. Yeah, it's not a major difference. And let's see, the Canadian dollar. Whoops. Canadian dollar should be about 75 cents. It's 72 cents. So it's down a little against the dollar's down a little against the Canadian dollar. Not a whole lot though. I mean. And we'll look at the Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar spot on at 65 cents. So 1 Aussie dollar equals 65 cents. Like 1 euro equals $1 plus 8 cents, $1.08. So I don't see any crazy changes here in the currency. There's subtle little movements, but America still is not, going down the drain yet. And mind you, once things start getting worse, the gold and the silver will shoot up and other things. So basically, America and Russia are going to have to do something. They both can't sit around and tread water anymore. And they both don't want to do anything. And let's see what happens. And that Russian warship flotilla coming to the eastern side of the Florida Keys is a winner. So I think that's what's going on, and we just watch Bible prophecy getting fulfilled. And be ready, watch and be ready to lift up your head, because your redemption is going to draw us nigh when you have the appearing of the Son and the Son of Man in the clouds. And those of you that believers are going to have eternal life, and then Israel will have it too. Because he's going to pour his spirit out on them that you read in Jerusalem and the house of David. Before that happens in Zechariah 12:10. So, you want to make friends with Zechariah 12, Zechariah 13, Isaiah 47, Ezekiel 38 and 39, Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11, and the whole book of Joel. And learn to tell the difference between the Gog and Magog war, the great day of the Lord is what it's really called, which is also Zechariah 14, and the siege against Israel, which is the next war, which is Jacob's trouble. And you read Zechariah 12 with Jeremiah 30 and 31. So, if you do these things, you'll have a good idea. In Jeremiah 50, 51 plus Isaiah 47 depicts the and that's what's going on. You guys got a pretty good understanding, and then after Zechariah 12, you're going to have the next great Exodus, and you'll be here. And remember, the two witnesses burned the ones laying the siege on Israel up on the right hand and the left hand, and that's found plain as day in Zechariah 12:6. It couldn't be more plain, yet the church is, 99% of them are ignorant of this. I'll read it to you. It's a very easy verse to understand. It's not very difficult. It goes like this. In that day, the day, I will make the governors, those are the judges, of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheath, and they shall burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place, even in Jerusalem. And if that's not the two witnesses, what is? Who do you think this is? Roger Rabbit and Wile E. Coyote? People won't wake up. They won't wake up because they're being trained. Oh, Revelation 11, the tribulation, the two witnesses are standing still there for 3.5 years in sackcloth. Well, do they go to the bathroom? Do they eat? Do they go to their families? Do they take a walk? You can't listen to these people, They don't pay much attention to Zechariah 4. They don't know who the two witnesses are. There'll probably be accusations of them being the beast and the false prophet. That won't last long for them. They know there's a great Exodus coming, but they don't know when. They're not going to be much help. You might be help for them. They're not going to be help for you. They're going to crumble, cave in. All 2 billion of them around the world, they're going to cave in. They're not going to know what hit them. Many, many, many people are going to die very soon. The Lord has a controversy with the nations over Zion. His continuing whirlwind, which is his storm or his tempest, is falling on the head of the wicked until it accomplishes his purposes. It will not return. Sorry, Chief, I didn't know you were blocking me. And they will, sorry, Chiefy. They ain't gonna know what hit them. And then you got all these people running around America that want to play Christian, and hate Israel. Does America have an obligation to help Israel? No. If it just left Israel alone, it would far more better than what it's done to Israel repeatedly over the years. It's just been awful to Israel. Now you see it because it's being illuminated to you, but they've been this way all along. They made Israel give back the Sinai Peninsula that they took from Egypt because they didn't want Israel to have it. They didn't want Israel to have the oil. It was too good for the economy for the Jews. They didn't want that. What about Gaza? Netanyahu and the Americans were very instrumental, the Americans really did it, of giving Gaza back, and look what that did to us. We were in Lebanon in 2006, and the UN got us to withdraw from a 25-mile buffer zone, said they'd put UN troops in to enforce it. Look how that turned out. 50 to 70 missiles a day. That's the nations. That's the nations. That's them trying to destroy us. Israel's problems with these nations could be fixed like that. All they got to do is do it. How do you stop Gaza? We've evacuated 1.2 million out of Rafah. Go in with 100 tanks. Tell them to come out with their arms up and surrender, or we're going to destroy Rafah. They got 15 minutes. Literally, you give them 15 minutes, and then you drop 2,000 or 3,000 artillery shells, and then you give them another 15-minute grace period, and then you finish them off. Take a day. 2 days, 3 days. That's it. That's it. It's not any more complicated than that. Lebanon, blow their power, blow their water, blow their bridges, blow their trains, blow their piers, blow their immature navy. Just keep blowing stuff up on them. And at the same time keep bombing the Houthis. And that's it. I wouldn't push them back to the Litani River. I'd say that they all need to disband, leave Lebanon, never return. That's it. I mean, you can't play games with these people. Israel is not even talking to their people about what the right things to do would be. What are the nations going to do? God's going to stop it. Okay? What are they going to do? Nothing. But when you have satanic leaders, this is the crap you get. What they're doing to us here. And when you live in a country of people that won't, in Israel, and you won't follow the law, and you won't follow Jehovah, and you won't obey and do things his way, then you start getting 108-degree, 109-degree weather. You got parched land 7 months a year. You got a horrible economy. You got a horrible government. You got horrible neighbors that keep trying to kill you. That's because they don't do the law and they don't do the judgment of the law. And that's why that happens. It's real simple. And that's why it's going to stop. It's not hard to understand that. I just explained it to you. Soon you'll see Elijah working openly. These are already the days of Elijah for some time, but the open working will start soon. Very soon. And things are going to happen. The temple's going to come. And they're going to accelerate and exaggerate or increase the siege. But you can't really siege from the Mediterranean because it's an ocean. What are they going to do? Get the sharks and the barracuda over there, Jordan is going to be in on it. Either they're going to take Jordan over or Jordan will go over on their own. Syria is in on it. Iraq is in on it. Turkey is not on the border with us, but they're in on it. Lebanon's in on it. Gaza's in on it. Saudi Arabia is certainly not our friend. So, Egypt's not our friend. Basically, wait for Jordan to get taken over or sell out, and the siege is just about complete, and then they just start building up the soldiers. It's not that hard to understand. There's not much left to the siege. Okay, so don't be thinking that there's a lot of time needed for that to come into place, because I don't really understand why you would think that. There's the only real missing piece to the puzzle is Jordan, and it's gonna happen. They might take Jordan over from within Jordan. Other countries could come in, and they may push into the West Bank. I don't know. I don't know what they'll do and what they won't do. So Iraq is not really on our border. They're separated from us by basically Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Syria, so we don't have a border with them. We have a border with Syria, which I would say is part of the siege. We don't really have a Saudi border. We have one with Jordan. And we sort of have one with Egypt too. Kind of, depending on, Rafa. So you could say that we have something with Egypt, a border with Egypt, because we do. And we almost have a border with Saudi Arabia by a lot, but it's probably a handful of miles off. So Egypt really needs to be in place, I would say, and Jordan, and then the siege is complete. That's it. And Egypt, tensions with us in Egypt are high. Last week, soldiers shot at each other. Two or three Egyptian soldiers died as a result of it. No Israeli soldiers died. So, we got Egypt's exposed. On being being in cahoots with Hamas and Gaza all these years, letting them smuggle concrete, tunnel making equipment, all kinds of weapons and weapon making equipment in from Egypt. So the cat's out of the bag, and then, can't run around saying, oh, they're our friends. Yeah. There you have it. So I hope you found this interesting. So China appears to be sucking in Biden and making Biden think they're afraid to act. And that's getting Biden bold, and it's causing him to use NATO and himself to put more and more pressure on Ukraine. On Russia rather. It's a big deal to tell the Ukrainians that they could use these weapons to attack inside Russia. So he is trying to get Russia to raise up against Ukraine and further weaken Russia, because they see themselves as getting into a war with Russia. So better to get into a war with a weak Russia than a strong Russia. Things will not work out well for either of them. For NATO, Biden, Russia, none. They're all going to destroy each other, if anything. Now, it's very possible that God destroys all these nations in Jeremiah 30:11, plus a lot of other nations in one day, in the day of vengeance. And it can be done in part by the sword, and in the other part by fire. The sleeper agents in America are going to get unleashed real soon. And they're going to attack the military, they're going to attack the houses. You've got at least 7 million of these characters running around over there. Okay, I'm wrong, you got 3.5 million. the 3.5 million would be like the size of the Chinese and the Iranian and the Russian armies or something like that. It's huge. If it's 7 million, it's the size of the China army, the India army, the Iran army, the North Korean army, the Russian army, all put together. You know, and it could be higher. It could be 8 or 9 million. They're going to get the houses, they're going to get the stores, they're going to get the military. They're going to just go crazy. They're going to loot, plunder, pillage, rob, steal, rape, murder, torture, everything. All the Israelites, all tribe or other, are going to get out. They're going to stop in the wilderness and come to Israel. In the wilderness, they're going to enter, they're going to pass under the rod, which means they're not goats, they're sheep. And they're going to enter into the bond of the covenant, then they'll go to Israel. The believers may have to go to the wilderness, and they may just go directly to Israel. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to keep getting updates on these things as they develop. Every day, it's a massive amount of information. I put it up on Telegram, and I asked these people on Telegram to, you know, consider giving me, it's not, the Telegram has got a lot of secular people, I think, so I say, you know, buy me a cup of coffee to keep me going, all this data up there. They don't do anything. Nobody sends an offering. But I think the Lord wants me to keep it up over there, so I will, for now. He may change his mind, I don't know. But again, it's really frustrating when you work very hard and the people just ignore you, you know, like, and that's the way things are with these people. They're cold-hearted, hard-hearted, stiff-necked. And they all think they're going to make it, just like all the Israelis, you know, oh, Jerusalem's the cauldron, it's our protector, you know, it'll say, and it didn't work out for them. And that's how these people are, these church people and stuff like that. They think it's going to work out for them. It's not. All the Israeli people think it's going to work out for them, and it's not either. Faith without works is dead. So, please pray for me and my wife, Rivka, for our peace, safety, protection, joy. Pray for our finances and our health, and pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues to be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for better videos. Pray that the Lord answers the numerous questions I've been asking him, so I can have that information and share it where and when appropriate. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and I hope you got something out of this. And that's what I got for today, and I hope it helped. And what do we got? Oh, almost 3 hours. My oh my. Well, drinking the water worked, though. That's what my problem was. Okay. So I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And remember, subscribe, because when the eggs hit the fan, I do numerous live streams day and night. And you might be interested in getting that news, you know, 8 or 12 hours before the media gets it. And I am out.